up, my beautiful Glamazons, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to part 3 of this story time of how I lost my best friend. I know that you guys are so ready to hear the last conversation that Alicia and I had, and I'm actually really sad because this is just like closing officially that chapter of my life and my friendship with her, not only to me but now to you guys. Probably will be another emotional video, just letting y'all know right now. I know that I sound different right now, and it's because I am getting over being sick. Once one of your kids is sick, everybody gets sick. Anyways, I hope you guys have your wine, your snacks, your popcorn, whatever it is that you need, and you're ready to chill with me and enjoy your Friday evening with another story time. Without further ado, let's jump into our Glamazon shot of the day. As per usual, before every video, I like giving a shout out to my OGs, my homegirls, my home skillet biscuits, my do anything for me. I do have Manazons. I have a lot of y'all asking about this, especially the boys that are like,
why aren't you like picking out Manazons?
Because look up the hashtag, okay? And I want y'all to look at it. And I want y'all to see. Do y'all see any Manazons? Or are you a Manazon and just not sending in your Glamazon shot, but then complaining to me that I'm not picking them out? Well, then send it. Straight up, if you guys want your chance to be featured, here is my Glamazon shot of the day with some personal love from me. Make sure that you are sending me your selfie. Hashtag Glamazon shot and tag me, just so that I'm sure that you one of my homies, okay? I find them via Twitter or Instagram. I do toggle between the two, but today we're going to be going through Instagram because last time we went through Twitter and I want it to be fair. If you don't have my socials, there they are below. Make sure you're not missing out. I also have like IG stories and stuff of the kids and me and like whatever crazy stuff I'm doing that day. You know what I'm saying? My God, you guys are freaking gorgeous. I can't. No, if you guys are gonna send me a Glamazon shot, can I see your whole face, please? Like some of y'all be trying to do one of these numbers and I'm like, nah, I need to know who my homie is. We all want to know what you look like, girl. I'm not trying to see your eyeball, okay? I know it's a cute pose and everything, but I'm trying to see your beautiful face. My Glamazon shot of the day is my girl. She goes by Lil Chili Pepper on Instagram. I really love your username. That's fantastical. Look at you and your friend. I really like seeing photos like this because the fact that y'all both know me, you and your friends know me and be watching my crazy ass, is amazing, and I really appreciate it. And I feel like I'm a part of like the friend group. All I need to do is like Photoshop my face in there and be like, yes. Thank you guys so much for all of your love and support. Thank you guys for sharing my videos with your cousins and your aunties and your best friends and everybody else. I really appreciate it. I hope your bestie relationship lasts forever and ever and ever, and y'all don't make the same mistakes that I do. Love on each other and always put each other first. Thank you guys so much for loving me and supporting me, for real though. I really appreciate it. You guys know that I would not be here without you, and I could not do this without each and every one of you guys, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's story time. But if you're not subscribed already, make sure you do that, and make sure you hit that notification bell because I love having my Glamazon family. So if you'd like to be a part of our family, just saying that's how you would do that. Okay, let's go. As usual, I'm just going to be jumping right into this story. If you haven't seen part 1 or part 2, I will leave a card right here so you guys can go back and watch those first. Otherwise, this ain't gonna make no sense, and this is a series. So jumping right back in, you guys know the last conversation that I had with Alicia, and honestly, surprisingly, a lot of you guys seem to have agreed with my decision in walking away that day, which is really shocking, just considering how much I have been beating myself up about this decision for years and years and years. Like literally up until this day, I just feel like, I think I feel so strongly about that because I know ultimately how that relationship between Robert and I ended up, and everything that Alicia and my mom and everybody else that like didn't like him was warning me about came true. I felt like my loss of this friendship was like totally my doing, and she really saw something that I wasn't seeing, or you know, because I had cloudy love vision, okay? And like Robert's funky ass wasn't really all that, like in any aspect. I'm not even trying to throw no shade. I'm just saying, like looking back, I'm like, he wasn't even like worth all that. I felt like he was, and I could not see what was real. You know what I'm saying? I saw what I wanted to see in him, and the people around me saw the truth and were trying to tell me, and I was like, nah, y'all don't even know what y'all are talking about. And just sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, because I mean, let's be real, Heather's funky ass said the same thing about David. She didn't like him, she didn't want me to date him, you know, he had a kid, It's been 8 years and I'm married with 2 kids with him. And so like, your friends aren't always right. I'm just saying, if it's like multiple people and all of these people really love you, like it was my mom and my best friend, you know what I'm saying? They're concerned, girl, please just give him a second. hear them out and just really consider it, because a lot of y'all felt like Alicia wasn't being fair, and I felt the same way. I'm hot-headed, don't get me wrong, and I especially back then I was hot-headed. I feel like Alicia was even more so and on a whole different level, and believe it or not, I was kind of like the calmness to her. My trigger wasn't set off so fast in comparison to her. I feel like knowing that about our friendship, I should have understood that she was lashing out and that maybe she was like extremely worried about me and like my emotional well-being with him, and she just didn't know how to vocalize that the right way, and she came off really hard and really hurtful, but I just don't think that she meant it that way. I beat myself up for that, for not being a little bit more patient with her as I had always been. Like, that day was just different than every other day. Like, I knew when Alicia was tripping and when it was just like her being emotional rather than her being hurtful. And this day was just very, very different. Ultimately, me walking away, me making that decision made me lose my best friend forever and ever and ever, you know? So like it was a very permanent decision, apparently. Don't think that I understood the severity of that in that moment, because I did not know, like I said in my previous story, I just didn't know that we could do that and use our gift of goodbye on each other. So in my mind, I'm correlating that decision of walking away with ultimately losing my best friend. And it was because she was telling me to break up with somebody that I should have. I totally should have. Like, oh, y'all, I would not have gone through half the shit that I'd gone through. Like, straight up. I put myself through so much trying to be with Robert's funky ass, and like, it just wasn't worth it. Anyways, back into the story. I went through every avenue that I possibly could to find Alicia. Even people that I was talking to that I was still friends with from my shitty school, they would tell me all the time, like, you know, we don't even see her a lot at school. What happened between she and I seemed to be affecting her regular life, because like our mutual friends weren't even seeing her that much. It's like Alicia retracted from everybody, and I was really concerned about that. A year went by, a full year, girl. I had not heard from, talked to, seen nothing Alicia in any way, shape, or form. She just disappeared. It was during this time that Heather's funky ass and myself were getting closer, because Heather was kind of there for me during my best friend breakup with Alicia. I went from being mad to sad to even more sad to angry again. And at this point, I was still angry. I was angry because I felt like, how easy was it for our friendship to disintegrate like that over something like this? Like, I just didn't feel like it was anything that we couldn't talk through. You know what I'm saying? It just went from 0 to 1,000 real quick. I felt like she was taking it too far. Like, you're taking it too far. Like, I cannot believe that you're doing this. I was angry and I was resentful. And part of me was like, you know what? Even if I saw her tomorrow, I wouldn't be talking to her, because like, how could you do this to me? How could you like put me through this to make a fucking point? Like, I felt like she was just trying to make a point. She was going to make me regret my decision, and I already had. Like, I regretted it like immediately after, you know what I'm saying? And I just felt like, why you still putting me through this when you know how much I care about you? Now, Heather was there at Robert's house when all this went down with Alicia, so she saw all of it from beginning to end. And when I started venting to her and we were getting closer, and like, you know, I was going to her house and sleeping over, she started kind of opening up to me about her thoughts about Alicia. And of course, they weren't all positive. Keep in mind, Heather and Robert were friends before she and I were, right? And among Robert's friends, he was the greatest guy. Like, everyone thought that he was so nice and sweet, and like, they all had the same notion about him and his personality. And she was like, you know, for her to not like Robert, like somebody like Robert, like that just says something about her, because he's nothing but a nice guy, you know? And I should have seen it coming, her hoe ass. I should have seen it coming, because she always had such great things to say about Robert. She never said anything bad about Robert, ever. And then they end up sleeping together. Like, one day comes around, and at this time, it was a very, very weird part of my life. And I still have to talk to you guys about this. Like, when I moved out, where I was living, and, you know, I was on my own. I moved out when I was 17, almost 18. And so this was afterwards. And so I was on my own, and I ain't even gonna lie, it was very hard, and it was a lot of struggling, really having to grow the hell up. So before you think about leaving your parents' house, let me tell you something. It's hard as hell. At this time, I was working at Ross. Most of you guys know that I used to work there. I was the person that had to like pick up all the clothes that y'all refused to put back on the hanger, just saying. I was making my own money, and where I was living, I had to get my own groceries. Like, nobody bought any of those things for me. So I remember I had gotten my paycheck one day, and of course, you know, your girl didn't have a car, so I hopped on the RTD and I went to a King Soopers. Robert had been working as well, and he was about to get off work too, and he had just gotten his car, and like, he was so freaking lucky. His mom basically gave him a car. So when I was texting him that I was on my way to King Soopers, he told me that he needed to go too, so that he would meet me there. And y'all, I don't know why the hell. And like, I knew that he was getting off around the same time that I did. And thinking back, like, I'm just sitting here like, why didn't I ask my boyfriend to come get me so that I wouldn't have to ride 2 buses to King Soopers? Girl, I don't know. I seriously, I was so stupid. Everything in hindsight, girl, everything just... Right, the 2 buses over to King Soopers, and I get there, and I'm in the produce, which is like right by the front door, and I had been there for like maybe 5 minutes, and then I see Robert walk in. At this point, Robert and I had been together for like a year, almost a year and a half. And so, you know, I felt like this was my long-term relationship. Like, we had been making it work for all this time. We had been through so much together. We started shopping for groceries together, and he shopped for groceries because his mom was always gone from the house, like legit. Eventually, she straight up like left the house in his care, not legally, but she would leave and be like, pay for the rent and like this and this, but you have to pay for the other utilities and your groceries. And it was Robert and his little brother in the house. So Robert worked, and he was there getting groceries too. I'm in there in the produce section, I'm picking out my fruit, and Robert and I are talking about God knows what. And I look up and I see this lady standing over by the salads, you know, like where all the lettuce and salad is. And she's standing over there, and she looks so familiar. And it was one of those moments in my head where I was like staring at her, and I really need to work on that. Like, when I feel like I know you, but I can't pinpoint where I know you from, my first reaction is to just stare at you until I figure it out. But like, the whole time that I'm thinking, I'm just staring at you. I was doing that to this lady, right? And so she's, you know, looking at the salads, and her back is towards me, and I can see like her profile, and she just looks so freaking familiar, you guys. She was like in her 60s. Like, she was, you know, a grandma's age, right? She finally turned around and she saw me, and I'm like straight up, like just staring at her across the room, and she looks at me and she goes, "Hi, Nikki, baby." When she said that, it immediately came back. Oh my God. That's Alicia's grandma. I dropped everything, and I ran towards this lady like she was my own grandmother, and I hugged her. And the minute I hugged her, I cried, and like, I didn't even say anything to her, and she was like, "Nikki," and she like, you know, hugged me back, and I just held on to her for a good minute. And then finally, like, I looked at her and I was like, "I'm so sorry. Like, how have you been? Oh my God, it's been so long." I had met Alicia's grandma because, you know, a lot of times when her dad would travel, Alicia would stay with her grandma, and I'd go chill over there. And her grandma used to go to my church when I was in high school. So like, I knew her grandma really well, and her grandma loved me. She was like the sweetest lady. Immediately, I lose all my cool. Like, all that I felt like, even if I saw Alicia tomorrow, like, I wouldn't try to fix it. All of that just like went out the window, and I was like, oh my God, this is my chance. Like, this is her grandma. There's no freaking way that her grandmother doesn't know where she's at. I start talking really fast, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, Miss So-and-so, like, it's so good to see you. And I just have so many questions, and I cannot seem to get a hold of Alicia. And like, she and I kind of had a falling out last year, and it's all my fault. And I just want to talk to her and tell her how sorry I am. And I can't seem to find her. And like, I've been asking all of my friends, and I went back to the old house, and she doesn't live there anymore. And you guys, like, I was just rambling, like, please, like, just please give me an insight into where she's at, please. Like, you're right, they did move, and it's because her dad keeps traveling a lot, so she's been staying with me. She was like, you know where I live. If you ever want to come by and say hello to her, you're more than welcome. So you guys, my heart is beating so fast. Like, this is answering all of my questions. Like, I actually have a location as to where Alicia is. Yes. Yes. Like, I didn't even think about it. I asked her grandma, I was like, is she off of work right now? And she was like, yeah, she got off this afternoon at like 2. And I was like, okay. I was like, do you mind me coming over right now to go say hi to her? I was so adamant about like right now because I knew that if her grandma went home and told Alicia like I ran into Nikki, I just felt like, what if Alicia was still mad? She would like take off or make it hard for me to find her again. Saying this to her grandma, and she and I are talking, and I look over and I see Robert, and he's like looking at me like, wait, what? Like right now? You're trying to go right now? And I was just like, I'm not even talking to you. I'm not discussing this with you. Like, whatever, right? Absolutely. We're not doing anything tonight. Like, I don't think that she's going anywhere. I'm sure she would love to see you. And it was so evident that Alicia hadn't talked to her grandma about what happened between she and I, because her grandma just felt like it wasn't a big deal for me to come over. She had just gotten to the grocery store and she was like, I'm going to finish my shopping and I'll meet you out front. And I was like, okay, great. So you guys, she walks away, and like, I am just so relieved and thankful, and like I'm just like teary-eyed, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to see Alicia. Oh my god. Robert came up to me and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm going to find my best friend. And Robert just sat there and he was like, I don't know, Nikki, like if she wanted to get a hold of you, she could, and she hasn't, and I don't know if she wants to see you. I got really pissed, and I looked at him and I was like, you don't want she and I to be friends because she doesn't like you, but like I don't care what you want anymore. Like I lashed out at Robert for real. And I just felt like, don't try to talk me out of this. I'm not asking for your opinion anyway. Like, this is my best friend that I lost because of you, because you're in my life. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like everything's going to be fine if she and I have a chance to talk. So that's what I'm going to do. And I hurry up and I take my groceries, and I actually asked Robert for a ride, right? I knew exactly where Alicia's grandma lived. Like, I didn't even need to follow her, but I didn't want her grandma to get home too much before me and like tip Alicia off, you know? So I had Robert like be right behind her the whole way. The closer we're getting, the more nervous I'm becoming. We're just going to be catching her all kinds of off guard. If there was one thing that Alicia did not like, it was surprises. We arrived to Alicia's grandma's house, and we pull into her driveway, and her grandma lived in a really nice house. It was like a 2-story house. I helped her grandma get some of the groceries out of her car, and she walks in, and so I'm right behind her, and I have groceries in my hand. And we walk, through her house, and we go back to her kitchen, and I set down the groceries on her counter. While I'm setting down the groceries, her grandma yells and says, Alicia! No answer. I felt like I was going to explode from excitement, but Alicia didn't answer, and so I kind of like panicked, like, oh my god, what if she's not here? Her grandma walked over to the stairs and like yelled up the stairs and was like, Alicia! Finally, Alicia opened what sounded like the bathroom door because you could hear water, and she was like, what? And her grandma was like, you have a visitor, like come down here. And Alicia was like, who is it? Her grandma looked over at me for a split second, and I was like, don't tell her. I love her grandma so much. She just looked over at me and she was like, you'll see when you get down here, so hurry up. You guys, I was so thankful. I was like, thank you so much for not telling her. I just wanted to surprise her. There were like a few more bags in her car, so she goes out to go get them, and I asked her if she needed any help, and she said no. So her grandma leaves to go get the rest of the groceries, and I'm just standing there. And the way that her house was built was like, it was like a big open living room and kitchen area, and then the stairs like went up, and you could see there was like a balcony, and you could see like the doors of the rooms, and when you came out you could look over and see the main area of the house. In that main area, I was standing there. Like, there was literally no spot for me to stand without being seen, from upstairs. So I knew that the minute that Alicia came out from wherever she was at, she was going to see me just standing there in the middle of her grandma's living room, okay? I'm like walking around the living room, and I'm like pacing, and finally I sit down. Alicia's taking for freaking ever. Meanwhile, her grandma comes back in with the rest of the groceries and starts putting them away in her kitchen, right? Alicia took so long to get out of the shower and get dressed and all that her grandma got done with the groceries and like asked me if I wanted anything to drink. I said no, ma'am. And she said, okay, I'm gonna go up to my room. You girls have fun. Yeah, I hope we have fun, because like, I don't know how this is gonna go down. She just left me in the living room, and she went upstairs and went into her own room, shut the door. So I'm just sitting there waiting to see what happens the minute that Alicia sees me, because finally I hear a door open. I look up, and I see the light inside of that room like turn off. Like, she had opened the door and turned off the light. And she walked out and she was looking at her phone. So her head was down, right? And the whole time, you guys, I'm sitting there watching her and she does not look up. I don't know who she thought was there, but she's looking at her phone. So it's like she didn't even care. So she walks all the way across, and the way that their stairs were, it was like down and then a landing and then down again. So she gets down that first set and she gets onto the landing and she turns to come down the rest of the stairs. And that is when she looked up from her phone and she saw me. You guys, she had her phone like this and she looked at me and she was like, part of me immediately regretted this decision because she did not look happy to see me at all. I don't know what I expected. I guess I just thought all we needed to do was see each other and nothing else would matter. And like, we would just like, I don't know, like just be so excited to see each other again that we wouldn't be mad at each other anymore. Definitely not what happened. She comes down the rest of the stairs and she stops in the middle of the living room and she was like, Nikki, what are you doing here? You guys, I'm like getting heartbroken all over again. I couldn't believe that I was laying eyes on her again. And within a year, you guys, so much had changed and she looked different. And I was just like staring at her and I was like, hi, Alicia. Like, oh my God, like I've been looking for you everywhere. She's just sitting there. She's looking at me. She was like, why? Why are you looking for me? What you mean? Alicia, come on. I was like, don't play that with me. And she was like, play what, Nikki? I'm confused as to why you're even here. Damn. I was like, look, I'm not trying to fight with you. I was like, I just wanted to see if you were okay. I hadn't heard from you. And she was like, yeah, that's what happens when a friendship ends. Oh my God, Alicia. I was like, you're seriously still that mad at me? And she was like, I'm not mad at you. She was like, we agreed that our friendship was going to end. She was like, so I'm just confused. I'm not going to lie. I was like the desperate, please talk to me kind of friend in that moment. And I didn't, all my pride, all of it was gone. And I was like, Alicia, please talk to me. Please, like I have been dying to talk to you and like apologize to you. And she came around and she sat down on a chair across from me and she just looked at me and she goes, apologize for what? And I was like, apologize for how everything went down. I was like, because that's not what I wanted to happen. And she was like, well, Nikki, you can't like always get what you want. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And like everything that I was saying, she was shutting down. She was like very emotionless, but it didn't matter. She was like jabbing and jabbing. And I was like, dude, I'll take it. Cause like I missed you. Like, what the hell? I don't remember exactly what was said back and forth, but like, I just remember that happening where I was like saying things and she was shutting me down and just being very cold and like distant, you know? After me groveling for a little bit, she kind of softened up and she was like, you know, I've been good. She was like, obviously, you know, I'm living here now. And I was like, really? Where's your dad? And she was like, yeah, you know, he's been working. He's been traveling a lot. Like, he's not even here half the time. So, you know, we just agreed that it would be better if I live with my grandma because there was no point in him paying rent at that house that he was hardly ever at. And I was like, oh, I was like, well, what about his girlfriend? And so, you know, she's updating me on all this. And she was like, yeah, you know, I got a job. And, you know, she told me where she was working. And so, you know, conversation starts going and whatever. And she was like, you know, how have you been? And I was like, you know, I've been good. And I got a job too. I work at Ross right now. And like, you know, I'm still trying to figure everything out. But I'm finally out of my mom's house. You know, I'm doing things on my own. She sat there and she goes, so how long ago did you and Robert break up? We didn't. I just kind of looked at her like, I told you so. I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me that was like, see, you didn't even know what you were talking about, because at this time, you know, Robert and I were still together, and, you know, according to me, we were doing really well, and we were like really, you know, strong and like had this great relationship. So I was looking at her like, see, you didn't know what you were talking about. Like, we're still together and you thought we weren't gonna make it, and you thought that I was being stupid and I'm not, and all this or whatever. Oh, you know, I did. I was a little prideful with that, and I was like, yes, we are. Like, we're still together, contrary to what you believed. You guys, she did not say anything, and she just looked at me. And so I decided to ask, how are you and Damien doing? We're not. We broke up a few months ago. Oh. And she was like, I don't want to talk about it. And she immediately just shut down. She was like, I just don't want to talk about it, Nikki. It's nobody's business. And I was like, all right, I'm not asking. You know, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I have no choice but to be okay. And like everything that I was saying was just like met with something so negative and just like a smart ass response. And like, I'm just trying to check on you. So throughout this conversation, it's becoming less and less pleasant. And I'm starting to regret even coming here in the first place. I'm still trying because I know my friend and she's stubborn. And so I'm like, okay, like maybe if I just like calm her down and like show her I'm not here to fight, we can move past this prickly point of the conversation, because I just want to be able to talk to my friend again. She was like, but whatever, like I know you're happy about it. And I was like, I'm not happy about it. I would never be happy about that. I was like, I know how much you love Damien. Yeah, and you also know how stupid I was for him too. And I was like, you told me the same thing about Robert. I was like, I wanted to talk to you about that. I was like, I did not mean to say those things to hurt you, a year ago when we had that fight. And she was like, no. She was like, Nikki, I know that you meant every word. And I was like, you're not listening to me. And she was like, you didn't like Damien. I was like, and you didn't like Robert. I was like, you said what you said. I said what I said. And she was like, yeah, but she was like, I still don't feel like we should compare Damien to Robert. And I was like, well, why? I was in the same position that she was in. I didn't like her man either. And I felt like I had more of a reason to not like her man than she did. So when she said that, I was like, well, why? Like, why do you feel like it's so different? She was like, because it's not about what the boys did. It was about our response to it, like as people. And I was like, okay. And she was like, when that happened between you and Damien, she was like, I did not allow that to affect you any further going forward. And she was like, when you and I talked and we decided to just move forward and, you and Damien not have to be around each other, she was like, I made that decision to protect you because I wasn't going to have him talk crazy to you. I wasn't going to have him fighting with you. I wasn't going to have any of that. I hung out with y'all separately. I did everything separately because I loved you and I never wanted you to feel like an outcast because I wanted to hang out with my boyfriend. She was like, you, however, would make me hang out with Robert's funky ass, knowing how he treated me, knowing how, he felt about me, and like putting me in that position and not respecting the fact that I didn't like him. And I was like, okay, I guess I didn't see that side of it. And she was like, Nikki, you didn't see shit. And I was like, hold on. I was like, I'm trying to talk to you and I'm trying to figure this out and I'm trying to see where you're coming from. And I'm telling you that I could see that. Like, I see where you're coming from. And she was like, okay. She was like, well, what is that supposed to do for me now? Do you understand that I'm trying to repair right now? I was like, I'm not trying to fight with you. And she was like, yeah, Nikki, but I just don't want to hear it. You're still that upset? And she was like, I told you. The friendship was over. She was like, Nikki, you made your decision. She was like, and I still don't agree with you being with him, and I think that's stupid. Alicia, you don't know anything about our relationship. I was like, he's seen me through a lot over here trying to defend Robert. And she was like, yeah, okay. She was like, but I know that he's going to break your heart. And it may not be tomorrow, may not be next week, but it is going to happen. The fact that you put our friendship on the line to stay with him, talk about breaking someone's heart. She was like, Nikki, you broke my heart, and that is why I couldn't talk to you. She was like, I'm having a hard time talking to you even now. You chose him over me. At the end of the day, that's what you did. I did not choose him over you. She was like, yes, you did. And like, we're like going back and forth. And I was like, how could you possibly say that I chose him over you? I was like, I left the party that night for you. She was like, I get that. I understand that. She was like, but then you were going to go right back over there and be trying to hang out with him. She was like, in every event that you had, whether it was at school or whatever, she was like, your step shows, prom, anything like that, I had to be around him. And you did not respect the fact that I didn't want to be around him the way that I respected the fact that you didn't want to be around Damien. I was like, okay, I get that. I was like, but the difference is that I told you straight out, I don't want to be around Damien. I was like, when we went to the party that day, I asked you, even though I really wanted to go. Alicia, you've told me no 1,000,001 times. I was like, so what was the difference between that day and every other day where you felt like you had to say yes? Nobody forced you to say yes to go over there. And she just sat there and she was like, see, you see what you do? She was like, you don't want to take responsibility for any of this. And I was like, yes, I do. I was like, just making it seem like I just didn't care about your feelings and I didn't care about you. And I just wanted you to be disrespected and I just wanted you to be treated like shit. And that's not true. She was like, I guess we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. I don't know what to tell you. I was like, Alicia, I missed you. And she looked at me and she was like, I missed you too, Nikki. And for a split second, I saw my best friend, like just a flash of her. And I was like, oh, we're getting somewhere. And she was like, but the decision's been made. I was like, why are you so definite? I was like, why can't we talk this out? And she goes, because there's no point, Nikki. She was like, there's no point. You can't erase history, okay? She was like, I cut you out because I wanted you out, okay? I don't trust you. I will never trust you again. She was like, I'm not going to support your relationship. She was like, honestly, I just don't know why you're here. We had this entire conversation and she was still on that. And she was like, I just don't know why you're here. Like, she was like, how'd you even get here? You had my grandma come get you? I was like, no. I was like, I ran into your grandma at the grocery store and I followed her here. And she was like, oh, you got a car now? No, I got a ride. And she sat there and she goes, from who? My boyfriend gave me a ride here. Is he here? Yeah, he's waiting on me. You need to go. You need to get your shit and you need to go. Stop it. Like, why are you acting like this? She was like, because I told you that I don't want to be around him. I don't like him. She was like, it was good to see you and everything. She was like, we will never be friends again. Okay? Like, you have to understand that we will never be friends again. I don't want to talk about it. We got to let it go and we got to move on. She was like, I moved on. You need to move on. I'm not trying to be dealing with all this. That's who you chose. You need to go and just be with him and like get him the hell away from me. We got on the topic of, you know, what she had to go through because of me, because of my sister Ariel, you know, with her and her ex Aaron, okay? And before things got crazy here on YouTube and people started trying to play detective and like do illegal shit and basically be stalking strangers and doing the most, I had a video about what happened between Alicia and Ariel. He was like flirting with and talking to Ariel there at Elitch's. So Ariel had done this to Alicia as well and her man. A lot of you guys thought maybe that was the reason why we stopped being friends. It definitely wasn't. However, that was brought up during our last conversation. And she was bringing it up like, not only did I have to stand with you throughout our shitty school and the drama that we were going through at school, but I also had someone like your sister come at me sideways and start messing with my man. And I wanted to beat the shit out of her and I didn't because I loved you. So during that time, Alicia retracted from like ever coming over to my house. She didn't want to be around Ariel. So it didn't affect our friendship, but she was like, that was already a person that I didn't want to be around and that's who you lived with. So I just didn't want to be around her. The only time after that she came over was to get ready for prom. And during that time, she didn't see a whole lot of Ariel, but Alicia was not trying to mess with Ariel, but she didn't let it affect our friendship. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of made it awkward, but it didn't stop us from being friends. She was like, that was already a person that I didn't want to be around, that was a part of your home life. And then you got this boyfriend that I didn't want to be around that was a part of like your every other time kind of life. And she was like, so I feel like you just don't have no room for me. I'm just tired of having to put up with people that I don't like or that have done me wrong because I'm friends with you. You made the decision to walk away and I think it was the best decision ever. She was like, now we can live our lives freely. You have your crazy ass stepsister. You go do that. You go handle that. You put up with Robert's shit. She was like, you do whatever you want to do. You just have to come to terms with the fact that we're not ever going to be friends anymore. By this point, I had been told 100,000 times that she didn't want to be friends with me anymore. And I could not seem to get my mind around that and process that. And I kept like trying to beg and like talk my way through it. And like, maybe we're just having a big misunderstanding and maybe we can work this out. And at every turn, Alicia was like, nah. And she was just bringing up all this stuff. And she was like, I've had to put up with a lot being friends with you. And that hurt me. I was like, I didn't know that I was like hard to be friends with. Like, I didn't ask for any of this drama. Like, I didn't ask for my stepsister, okay? Like, I could not control that. And I know that I had a lot of drama in my personal life. Trust and believe me, I lived it, okay? But I just didn't know that my best friend resented me for that. And during this last conversation, it was evident that she did. Maybe she just really is happier without having me as a friend. Like, maybe it's just better for her all the way around. I cried, I'm not gonna lie, and Alicia teared up too. Like, she wasn't completely stone-faced. And I got my stuff. I walked across the room and I hugged her. Then, you know, I got up and I looked at her one last time to see if like she had a change of heart. She did not. She looked at me and she was like, I'll walk you to the door. She walked me to the door, and before she opened the door, she looked at me and she said, Nikki. And I was like, yeah. Don't ever do this again. Don't ever try to surprise me. Don't ever try to come back around when you know that we can't be friends anymore. Like, it's just not gonna work out. So like, don't come here anymore. I forgot exactly how she worded it, but she just basically was telling me like, don't ever come looking for her again. Don't ever come over to her grandma's house again. Like, just like leave it alone. So those were the last words that were between Alicia and I. I walked out of there with tears coming down my face, and I was just like, but a part of me felt like I tried. At least I know that I tried. And at least, you know, I don't have this question of like, what if I found her Like, at least this conversation happened and I had closure of some sort, and I knew where she stood and she knew where I stood. Even though this decision wasn't being made with me, at least like I knew what was what and I knew what was going to happen, you know? Surprisingly, after that, things seemed to get easier. I really feel like that closure helped, and just me not having any question about what coulda, shoulda, woulda happened, you know? It hurt me a lot to know that she just wanted nothing to do with me, but at least like I knew for sure that she wanted nothing to do with me. So that is why I have not looked for her. Honestly, you know, I want to respect her decision, and you know, maybe she was right. Maybe this was, you know, the best thing for both of us. And I hope that she's having an amazing life. And I hope that she has another best friend that can hold her down. And that is like so amazing. And I have my best friend now who is amazing. Khadijah is the best friend that I've ever had in my life. And I'm not meaning that with any shade or any malice or anything. I'm just saying that I moved on happily, and I really hope that she did as well. And, you know, this was like stupid teenage shit, and I grew a lot and I learned a lot, and I hope that she did too. And I know that Alicia was a big part of my adolescence and my teenagehood, and she was the person that we went through a lot together, and a lot of my stories involved her a lot. And this was the closing chapter of our friendship. And I know that this is going to make you guys very sad. And trust me, I understand that feeling. And I know, you know, I was very attached to her. She was my best friend. And now she's just a part of my stories, and she's a part of my history, and I'm a part of her history. And I wish her nothing but the best, seriously, in her life, and happiness and joy and just all of the prosperity and success ever. And yeah, like I said, definitely not the funniest or lighthearted stories of mine, but one of the stories that you guys wanted to hear. This is the final part of this series of how I lost my best friend. That was the last conversation that was had between Alicia and I. It was very cut and dry, and I did come out of there heartbroken, but I came out of there with closure, and I hope she got closure too. So moral of the story is to really think about your decisions, and to really try your best to be open-minded when more than one person that actually cares about you in your life sees some red flags. You know, don't be so quick to shut it down and like let your emotions drive everything. Sometimes you need to let your mind and logic drive at some point, because I made a lot of mistakes because of that relationship with Robert's funky ass that I would have never made otherwise. And, you know, a learning experience nonetheless. But if I can save you guys from making the same type of mistakes that I did, it would make all of it worth it. I'm actually kind of ready to move on from this series so that I can go back to being more lighthearted and like having fun and telling you guys crazy funny stories and like other things that don't make me so sad. But that is the story about how I lost my best friend. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. Always put your friends first. Like, always listen to your friends, be good to each other, be appreciative of one another and your role in each other's life, because seriously, it took me a long time between the end of my friendship with Alicia until I found Khadijah, you know, like, and then I had to go through Heather's funky ass that broke my heart and betrayed my trust and slept with my mans for me to find Khadijah. So that is our story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you like Storytimes, Ask Nikki's, and like fashion videos and stuff like that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be a part of my Glamazon family. Hit that notification bell so you are notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for coming to chill with me for Storytime this week. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Peace out.